Hi, Georgina here. I'm excited about this week's article. I went and titled it something just ridiculously long, but doesn't matter. Here it goes. Why it is important to understand why you're not like everyone else. The labels add language, the language adds clarity. So, really, the condensed version is this is about clarity in the neurodiverse community and for yourself. And what brought it up was a recent conversation I had with a potential client, and he had a lot of rage and anger actually kind of going on in the moment. And it was around the fact that he had spent so many years in school and nobody had mentioned that he had these things, that he was struggling with ADHD, that he had some other traits. And without those labels, he had created different labels and meaning to that. And it was very negative, that he was dumb and stupid and unworthy and broken and all of those things that I believe a lot of people in the neurodiverse community have also labeled themselves at times when they didn't understand where things were coming from and how to deal with them. And so that's what this article is about. I obviously don't get into his particular story because that would be massively inappropriate, but I do talk about that space that belief is actually created. And I go into what's going on with children, basically when they look around and they see everybody else is acting one way and they're kind of acting another. They're not quite fitting in. And in that moment, our minds, Brené Brown talks about this and does a great job of explaining it. It needs a story. It says, well, if I'm not like everybody else, why am I not? And with a lack of vocabulary and with a lack of knowledge, they fill in the blank. And a child's first reaction most often to something being different or not understanding it is to blame themselves. And I also map out how that kind of works for young people and why they do that. It's about limited cognitive development. It's about a desire to have some control. It's about social learning. Maybe they're in an environment where people blame a lot of other people, so forth. They'll pick it up there. It's also about a lack of distinction between effort and ability and some imposter syndrome. So we touch on that a little bit and how that mindset gets formed, and then we wind up carrying that into adulthood, not knowing it. Like, these are all massive not knowings, not sure types of things. I mean, obviously, if we had the awareness, we'd do it differently. I also talk about ways to take some of those statements that, if you're an adult, you may have created about thinking, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, those types of things. If you were later diagnosed, it's very common. A lot of my clients come in with a lot of negative labels about their own thinking and thought processes and so forth. And that is why neurodiversity coaching is so different than regular coaching. Those things have to be addressed. And they have to be addressed in a manner that the person is able to comprehend it, apply it, and engage with it. So neurodiversity coaching really does matter and make a difference for that. I put in a little bonus in this article about the fact that kind of offsetting and giving some positive statements you can replace if you have some of those negative statements going on for you. And then I just talk about why this is so important. And I ask that, should you have a younger person in your life that's been diagnosed with a neurodiversity, maybe you should learn a little more about it. And maybe you could ask more questions and have some conversations with that younger person, helping them to understand themselves and the labels, and replacing and making sure that they're not calling themselves dumb, stupid, all those types of things, and instead just saying, wow, that's not in my strength. Maybe I can improve that. Maybe I've been trying for the last 10 years and that's probably not going to improve a whole lot. So that's what we're chatting about today. It's just how very important and life-changing that small amount of clarity can be for people. Because just in that conversation that I started talking about with the young man earlier, that sparked this whole thought, just like that, by the end of our conversation, an hour later, we have found a couple more potential traits that they expressed and definitely demonstrated. And just knowing about that, they found really, really helpful in understanding who they were and how valuable they are and their role. and choosing, and in particular, this person was considering jobs and considering what jobs best fit him and what he's looking for in his future. All of a sudden, knowing that about how his behavior and about how his mind works, a couple of those jobs he was thinking about were not in alignment and were probably going to create and cause him even more stress. Well, that's not the goal. So I'm Georgina. I hope you've learned a little bit from this. I hope you read the article. It's quite good. And I hope you start to have more conversations about this with anybody that you know in your life that has a neurodiversity. Thank you. Bye now.